The greatest and most important problems of life are all, in a certain sense, insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. This outgrowing proves on further investigation to require a new level of consciousness. Some higher or wider interest appears on the patient's horizon, and through this broadening of his or her outlook, the insoluble problem loses its urgency. It is not solved logically in its own terms, but fades out when confronted with a new and stronger life tendency. This quote from Carl Jung is the foundation of our discussion today. It points to a profound truth about the conflicts we face, especially within our most intimate relationships. The recurring arguments, the persistent irritations, the cycles of blame and resentment. These are not problems to be solved like a mathematical equation. They are symptoms of a consciousness that needs to expand. They are invitations to grow. The biggest threat to your relationship isn't your partner. It's a hidden part of you that you've been taught to hate. This is your shadow self, and today we uncover how it secretly runs your love life. We will explore one of the most powerful concepts in psychology, the idea that your partner acts as a mirror. They reflect the parts of you that you cannot or will not see in yourself. Until you are brave enough to look at your own reflection, you will spend your life trying to fix, clean, or even shatter the mirror. Our goal today is not to give you tools to fix your partner. It is to give you a map to understand yourself. By the end of our time together, you will understand the Jungian concept of the shadow. You will see how it manifests as projection and conflict in your relationship, and you will have the first essential steps to begin integrating this shadow, transforming your deepest conflicts into your most profound connections. This is not about blame, it is about liberation. Let us begin. To understand the shadow, we must first understand the structure of our own minds. Imagine an iceberg floating in the ocean. The small tip visible above the water is your conscious mind. This is everything you are aware of at this moment. Your thoughts, your feelings, your identity as you know it. It is the part of you that you consider to be me.
But beneath the surface of the water lies the vast, immense majority of the iceberg. This is your unconscious mind. It contains everything you are not currently aware of. Forgotten memories, repressed feelings, instinctual drives, and deep-seated patterns of behavior. It is the hidden engine that powers much of your life. Within this vast unconscious, there is a very specific territory Jung called the shadow. The shadow is not merely everything you do not know about yourself. It is specifically the parts of yourself that you have disowned. Think of your personality as a complete sphere at birth, containing the potential for every human trait: anger and kindness, greed and generosity, courage and fear. As you grow up, your family, your school, your culture, and your society begin to teach you which parts of this sphere are acceptable. You are praised for being polite, quiet, and generous. You are punished or shamed for being loud, angry, or selfish. To survive and belong, you begin a process of psychic amputation. You cut off the unacceptable parts of your personality and shove them down into the dark basement of your unconscious. This collection of disowned parts is your shadow. It is everything you have decided you are not. I am not selfish. I am not angry. I am not weak. I am not needy. The more forcefully you declare what you are not, the more you feed and energize your shadow. The shadow is, in essence, the person you would rather not be.
But here is the crucial point. These traits do not disappear. They are living, dynamic parts of your psyche. Pushing them into the darkness does not eliminate them. It just makes them operate outside of your conscious control. They become autonomous, and they will find a way to get your attention. They will erupt in moments of stress. They will whisper insecurities in your ear. And most relevant to our discussion, they will appear in the faces of the people you love. Now, it is essential to understand that the shadow is not exclusively negative. We do not only repress traits that are socially undesirable. We also repress parts of ourselves that were threatening to our early environment. This is what Jungians call the golden shadow. Imagine a child who is naturally creative, spontaneous, and boisterous. If this child grows up in a rigid, highly controlled environment where creativity is seen as messy and spontaneity is punished, that child may learn to disown these positive qualities to fit in. They will push their creativity, their confidence, their vibrant life force into the shadow because it was unsafe to express it. As an adult, this person might find themselves inexplicably and intensely drawn to artists, entrepreneurs, or free-spirited individuals. They idealize them, placing them on a pedestal. This is the projection of their own golden shadow. They are seeing their own disowned potential in another person. Conversely, they might feel an irrational envy or irritation towards these same people. They might call them unrealistic or irresponsible. This is also the shadow at play, a bitter resentment for the parts of themselves they were forced to abandon. Consider another example. A young girl in a family that values academic achievement above all else shows a natural talent for leadership and social connection. She is charismatic and loves organizing games with her friends. Her parents, however, dismiss these skills as frivolous. They praise her only for good grades. To earn their love and approval, she learns to suppress her social intelligence and leadership qualities. She pushes them into her shadow and focuses on becoming a top student. As an adult, she might become a brilliant but isolated academic. She might look at charismatic leaders in her field with a mixture of awe and contempt, calling them showboats or manipulators. She is projecting her own disowned golden leadership onto them, unable to see that the qualities she judges so harshly are a vibrant, powerful part of her own forgotten self. So, the shadow is a complex, rich part of us. It holds our disowned anger and our disowned creativity. It holds our repressed weakness and our repressed strength. It is not evil. It is simply what has been left in the dark. The goal is not to destroy the shadow, which is impossible, but to bring its contents into the light of consciousness. This is the process of integration, and it is the foundation of psychological wholeness.
But how does this hidden part of us actually impact our relationships? The primary mechanism is a defense mechanism known as projection. Projection is an unconscious process where we attribute our own unacknowledged and unwanted traits, feelings, or thoughts onto another person. It is like having an old-fashioned film projector running in the back of our minds. The film reel contains all the disowned clips of our shadow self, our anger, our neediness, our fear, our golden potential. When we enter a relationship, our partner becomes the blank screen onto which we project this film. We then react to the image on the screen as if it were the person themselves. We are no longer in a relationship with the actual person. We are in a relationship with our own projected shadow content. A simple example is a person who has disowned their own anger. They believe themselves to be a calm, rational person. They might find themselves constantly accusing their partner of being angry or aggressive, even when objective observers would disagree, to any sign of irritation in their partner, because they are projecting their own repressed anger onto them. The partner becomes the carrier of the anger for the relationship, allowing the individual to maintain their self-image as a calm person. The telltale sign of a projection is the intensity of the emotional reaction. It is a disproportionate response. If your partner leaves a dish in the sink and you feel a level of rage that is far beyond the minor inconvenience of the situation, that is a clue. The intense emotional energy, what Jungians call affect, signals that an unconscious complex has been triggered. The dish is not just a dish. It has become a symbol for something much deeper, something from your own shadow. You might be projecting a disowned part of yourself that feels taken for granted, or a part that resents its own passivity. The fight is never about the dish. The fight is about the shadow. For a projection to be effective, it needs something to stick to. It needs what we might call a hook. A hook is a small, real trait or behavior in our partner that our unconscious can latch onto and use as a justification for the entire projection. Maybe your partner is a little bit messy. This small trait becomes the hook for your projection of chaos and irresponsibility, parts of yourself you have fiercely disowned. Their minor messiness becomes proof that they are a chaotic person, and you react with an intensity that matches your fear of your own inner chaos, not the reality of the situation. This is why arguments in relationships can feel so crazy and circular. You are not arguing about the same reality. Each person is arguing with the other's projection and with their own. You are two people in a dark room shouting at shadows on the wall. To make this concrete, let us explore a detailed case study. We will call our fictional couple Alex and Ben. Alex prides himself on being a generous, easygoing, and spontaneous person. He loves to treat his friends to dinner, buys thoughtful gifts, and believes that money is a tool for creating joy and connection. Ben, his partner, is more cautious. He is a diligent saver, creates budgets, and prefers to plan for the future. He is not stingy, but he is financially prudent. On the surface, this could be a complementary dynamic.
But it is not. Alex feels a constant, simmering resentment towards Ben. He sees Ben's prudence as stinginess. He sees Ben's planning as being uptight and controlling. When Ben suggests they save money by cooking at home instead of going out, Alex feels a wave of contempt. He thinks Ben is cheap and that he is trying to control him. He starts fights, accusing Ben of sucking the joy out of life. He says things like, "You never want to have fun, and everything is about control with you." Ben, in turn, feels confused and attacked. He sees his behavior as responsible, and he experiences Alex's spending as reckless and a source of anxiety. Their arguments are intense, recurring, and deeply painful for both of them. They are stuck in a loop. Alex blames Ben's stinginess. Ben blames Alex's recklessness. From a Jungian perspective, we would look for the projection. The clue is the intensity of Alex's contempt.
It is a disproportionate emotional reaction. Ben's budgeting is not a personal attack. It is a practical approach to finances. So why does Alex experience it with such venom? We must look to Alex's shadow. If we were to explore Alex's history, we might discover that he grew up in a family with significant financial instability. There was constant anxiety around money, and his parents fought about it endlessly. As a child, he felt helpless and terrified. To cope with this terror, he made an unconscious decision. He decided he would never be like his anxious, controlling parents. He would be the opposite. He would be generous, easygoing, and free with money. In doing so, he took his own legitimate fear of poverty, his own natural desire for financial security and control, and he pushed it deep into his shadow. He disowned these parts of himself completely. Now, in his relationship with Ben, he has found the perfect screen. Ben's responsible behavior provides the perfect hook. When Ben expresses a desire for financial planning and control, he is simply being a responsible adult.
Alex's projector turns on. He projects his own disowned, terrified inner child onto Ben. He sees his own repressed fear and his own repressed need for control in Ben's behavior. The contempt he feels for Ben is actually the contempt he has for the weak, scared part of himself that he swore he would never be. He is fighting his own shadow, and Ben is just the unfortunate person standing in the way. But this is not a one-way street. Ben has his own shadow and his own projections. Let's imagine Ben grew up as the oldest child of immigrant parents who worked multiple jobs. From a young age, he was the responsible one. He had to be mature, serious, and help care for his younger siblings. There was no room for play, for spontaneity, or for being a carefree child. He learned that his value came from his reliability and his seriousness. So he took his own natural playfulness, his desire for spontaneity, and his inner child and locked them away in his shadow. He sees these qualities as dangerous, irresponsible, and a threat to survival. Now look at Alex. Alex is spontaneous, fun-loving, and a bit reckless. He is the perfect hook for Ben's projection. When Alex suggests a last-minute weekend trip, Ben feels a surge of anxiety and judgment. He sees Alex not as a joyful partner, but as an irresponsible child who needs to be managed. He projects his own disowned inner child onto Alex and then criticizes him for it. He says things like, "You need to grow up," and "You never think about the consequences." So we have a perfect tragic loop. Alex projects his disowned fearful parent onto Ben. Ben projects his disowned irresponsible child onto Alex. Alex is constantly fighting with his father. Ben is constantly trying to discipline his inner child. Neither of them is in a relationship with the real person in front of them. They are locked in a psychological war with their own ghosts. Alex is trapped. He believes the problem is Ben. As long as he believes this, he is powerless. The only solution he can imagine is for Ben to change, to become more like him. This is a recipe for perpetual conflict and resentment. The path to liberation does not involve changing Ben. It involves Alex turning inward and beginning the courageous work of shadow integration. This work is not easy, but it is straightforward. It consists of 3 fundamental steps: acknowledge, accept, and own. The first step is to acknowledge the projection. This is the moment of awakening. It begins with noticing the disproportionate emotional reaction. Alex must learn to pause when he feels that surge of contempt towards Ben. He must develop the capacity for self-reflection and ask himself a simple question. Is the intensity of my feeling truly about Ben's suggestion to cook dinner, or is it about something else? This step requires humility. It is the admission that the source of the problem might not be external, but internal. Alex must acknowledge that his perception of Ben as stingy and controlling is colored by a powerful emotional charge that originates within him. He stops focusing on the truth of Ben's behavior and starts focusing on the truth of his own reaction. He acknowledges that he has been triggered. This is a monumental shift from blame to curiosity. It is the moment he stops pointing the finger at the mirror and realizes he is looking at a reflection. The second step is to accept the shadow trait. This is often the most difficult part of the process. After acknowledging the projection, Alex must look for the disowned part of himself that is being projected. He must ask, what in Ben's behavior am I reacting to, and where does that quality exist in me? In our scenario, he is reacting to the desire for financial control and the fear of scarcity. The work now is for Alex to accept that these traits are a part of him. This does not mean he has to become a stingy person. It means he must stop judging and hating that part of his own psyche. He must accept that a part of him is deeply fearful about money. He must accept that a part of him craves control and security. Acceptance is not endorsement. It is non-judgmental recognition of what is. Alex might reflect on his own life and see how this disowned need for control manifests in other ways. Perhaps he is controlling about his schedule or how the house is kept.
He might realize his generosity is itself a form of control, a way to manage his anxiety by proving to himself and others that he is not poor or scared. He is accepting the complexity of his own nature. He is allowing the exiled part of himself to come home. The third and final step is to own the trait and withdraw the projection. Ownership is the conscious integration of the shadow material. It is taking responsibility for the trait so that you no longer need to unconsciously outsource it to your partner. For Alex, this means consciously connecting with his own financial fears. He might start his own budget, not because Ben told him to, but as an act of self-care for the scared part of himself. He is owning his need for security. The most powerful form of ownership often involves communication. After doing his own internal work, Alex might have a conversation with Ben. This is not a confession of being wrong. It is an act of profound vulnerability and connection. He might say something like this: "I have been thinking about our fights over money. I realize that when you talk about budgeting, I have a very strong and unfair reaction. I have come to understand that it triggers my own deep-seated fears about financial insecurity from my childhood. My contempt is not really about you. It is about a part of myself that I have been rejecting for a long time. I am working on taking responsibility for my own feelings of security." Imagine the effect of this statement. The entire dynamic of the conflict shifts. The wall of blame and projection comes down. In its place, there is a bridge of vulnerability and understanding. Ben is no longer the enemy. He is the person who, simply by being himself, helped Alex uncover a wounded part of his own soul. The conflict becomes a catalyst for intimacy. Alex has taken his power back. He is no longer a victim of his unconscious reactions. By owning his shadow, he has withdrawn the projection from Ben. He can now see Ben more clearly for who he is, a prudent person who cares about their shared future. He might still disagree with Ben on financial matters, but the disagreement can now be a practical negotiation, not a psychological war. The intense, toxic emotional charge is gone. This is the transformative power of shadow work. It is the path from projection to connection. Now, this process may seem abstract.
So let us bring it into your own life with an immediate, practical exercise. I call this the trigger tracker. For the next week, I want you to become a detective of your own emotional world. Carry a small notebook or use an app on your phone. Your mission is to identify one instance where you have a strong, disproportionate emotional reaction to your partner, or even to someone else. When it happens, do not act on it immediately. Instead, find a quiet moment and write down the answers to these 3 prompts. First, what was the specific trigger? Be as objective as possible. For example, my partner was looking at their phone while I was talking. Second, what was the primary emotion and its intensity on a scale of 1 to 10? For example, rage, an 8 out of 10. Third, and this is the most important part, complete the following sentence without judgment or censorship. This reminds me of a part of myself that I do not like, specifically my own tendency to be. Let us walk through this with our phone example. This reminds me of a part of myself that I do not like, specifically my own tendency to be distracted or to not give others my full attention, or perhaps my own tendency to feel insecure and needy for validation, or even my own tendency to devalue what others are saying. Let's take another example, this time involving the golden shadow. Imagine you feel a sharp pang of envy and irritation when your friend announces they are quitting their job to become an artist. The trigger is your friend's announcement. The emotion is envy, a 7 out of 10. You complete the sentence. This reminds me of a part of myself that I have abandoned, specifically my own creative ambition. You see, the intense reaction is not about your friend. It is about the part of you that longs for the same courage, the part of your golden shadow you disowned long ago for being impractical or unrealistic. The goal is not to find the right answer. The goal is to practice looking for the disowned trait within yourself. It is to train your mind to look in the mirror instead of only looking out the window. Do this exercise for a week. Do not share it with your partner. This is your work. It is a private investigation into your own psyche. At the end of the week, review your notes. You may begin to see a pattern. You may discover that the things that trigger you most intensely in others are pointing directly to the most disowned parts of your own shadow. This exercise is the first step. It is the beginning of the process of acknowledgement. It is how you start to see the projector in action. We have traveled a significant distance today. We began by understanding that the most difficult conflicts in our lives are not problems to be solved, but invitations to grow into a new level of consciousness. We have seen that our romantic partners often serve as a mirror, reflecting the hidden parts of ourselves. We have defined this hidden territory as the Jungian shadow, the collection of all our disowned traits, both negative and positive. We have learned that the primary way the shadow manifests in our relationships is through the unconscious mechanism of projection, where we cast our own unacknowledged qualities onto our partner, and then react to them as if they were real. Through the story of Alex and Ben, we saw how mutual projections can create a toxic circular conflict, rooted not in present reality, but in past wounds and disowned fears.
And most importantly, we have outlined the path toward resolution, a process of 3 steps for integration. To acknowledge the projection by noticing our own disproportionate emotional reactions, to accept the shadow trait within ourselves without judgment, and to own that trait, withdrawing the projection and taking responsibility for our inner world. This work is the furthest thing from a simple life hack. It is a profound and sometimes challenging journey of personal discovery. It requires courage, humility, and a commitment to your own growth.
The rewards are immeasurable. When you commit to integrating your shadow, you stop trying to change your partner. You realize they were never the enemy. They were a messenger, a guide, a catalyst for your own healing and wholeness. The energy you once spent on blame and conflict can be redirected toward building genuine, authentic intimacy. You learn to see your partner for who they truly are, and you allow them to see you, all of you, the light and the dark. True connection is not found in a perfect partner who never triggers you. It is found in your own willingness to become a whole person, standing beside another whole person. The mirror your partner provides is a gift. Have the courage to look at your reflection. The journey to a deeper connection with them begins with a deeper connection to yourself.